Aaron Freeman of Locked On Falcons with your boy Q of Locked On Raiders on a crossover Thursday presented by PrizePicks. Make sure you download the app and use code LOCKEDONNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. So, Q, let's talk about what each of these teams need to do to walk away with a win, otherwise known as keys to victory. What are 3 things that you think the Raiders need to do in order to snap their 9-game losing streak this Monday night?
Well, they've got to get to the quarterback. They've got to make Kirk Cousins' life miserable. He's not a guy that's going to run around the yard and escape, elude traffic and elude the pass rusher. So they've got to make his life miserable. They've got to force him into a couple bad throws. And as you know, he's turned the ball over quite a bit. So they need to do that as well. They need to find a way to create a couple turnovers. They had 3 last week against Tampa Bay. They're not very good at creating turnovers, but they've got to find a way to create some turnovers. So I think the pass rush and the turnovers kind of go hand in hand, force Kirk Cousins to make a mistake. Also, they need to continue to feed Sincere McCormick. They need to continue to make sure that the running back is able to be him, the guy he is. I'd like to see him get around 20 carries. He hasn't been there yet in his NFL career. 15 has been the most. I'd like to see him get to around 20 carries and about 100 yards. He hasn't hit the 100-yard mark yet, but I'd like to see that. I think that the Raiders need that kind of balance. And then obviously get the ball to the playmakers, right? Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers, Big Mike, Michael Mayer. Those are the guys that need to get involved offensively. And it doesn't matter what your quarterback is. Desmond Ridder or Aiden O'Connell, doesn't matter. They've got to find a way to get the playmakers the ball. And then finally, they just got to protect the ball. They can't turn the ball over. I know it's a simple thing about the turnover battle. You lose the turnover battle, most of the time you're going to lose the game. But more times than not, the Raiders lose that turnover battle. So they've got to create some, and they've got to protect it. They can't give the ball away. If they do, they're setting themselves up for failure. They're putting that defense back on the field, which has happened so many times this year. The defense gets off the field. Last week, they got an interception. Chason comes down with the interception. The very next play, Aiden O'Connell fumbles the ball right back to Tampa Bay. The very next play. That's not winning football. That's losing football. You have to protect the rock, and you have to take the rock away. So do that, and you're giving yourself an opportunity. We'll see how it all plays out. There's a reason why the Raiders are on a 9-game losing streak, and we still got to see who the quarterback's going to be. But get the ball to the playmakers. Have Sincere McCormick run the rock. Create a couple turnovers and get a couple turnovers of your own, and you'll be okay. You'll give yourself a chance. That's as far as I'm concerned what the Raiders need to do. So when you look at the Falcons, what do they need to do?
Well, we'll start with turnovers. That's one of the things, right? They've turned the ball over a bunch this year. They got to stop that this week, and that starts with Kirk Cousins. As you mentioned, both of these teams have struggled with this. They're both at the bottom of the league in turnover margin. The Raiders are dead last. The Falcons are 28th. The Raiders are dead last in takeaways. But as you said, Tampa Bay turned the ball over 3 times, and they got lucky because, as you said, O'Connell, botched one of those turnovers. They did turn the second one into points, and then the third turnover came right before the half, so they didn't really have an opportunity to turn that into points. But if the Falcons do that, I don't think they're going to get so lucky in those circumstances, and that has shot them in the foot really badly over this last month. So that's the first thing. The second thing is they got to get off to a fast start. I've been saying it all season long. And a couple of weeks ago, I would quote the stats on these crossovers like, oh, they're 5-1 when they score 7 points or more in the first quarter. And then they've scored 7 points or more in the last 2 games, and they lost both of those games. So I'm going to flip it with a different stat. Basically, The Falcons are dead last in the NFL right now in fourth quarter points. So basically, if it comes down to a 1-score game where they need to score in the fourth quarter, they can't do it this year. And so they need to get off to that fast start just so they can just not have it come down to the fourth quarter, because this offense has really struggled. So get that early lead, lean on the Falcons run game, force the Raiders to sort of have to throw the ball and play from behind. And maybe that pass rush that has been resurgent these last couple of weeks can get home and create some stops against Desmond Ridder or Aiden O'Connell. And then the third thing is whoever's going to win in the red zone is going to probably win this game, right?
Yeah,
both of these teams have been bad offensively and defensively in the red zone. The Falcons on offense and red zone efficiency are 26th. The Raiders are 28th. On defense, the Falcons are 24th. The Raiders are 25th. So both of these teams are equally bad in terms of red zone. And so basically probably that one extra red zone conversion that winds up team A or team B scores a touchdown versus a field goal is probably going to decide the outcome of this game, because I'm expecting sort of a close game in this one. But those to me are sort of the 3 keys for the Falcons. Don't lose the turnovers, get off to a fast start, and get touchdowns instead of settling for field goals if and when you get to the red zone.
No, that makes a lot of sense. It really does. And you can just, fast forward those and put those keys to the Raiders side of things as well, right? I mean, they have the same struggles. Again, like I mentioned, there's a reason why they're a 2-11 team right now, riding a 9-game losing streak. There's a lot of areas that need to be cleaned up. But, the fourth quarter not scoring from the Falcons, that might help out the Raiders because the Raiders seem to let the game get out of control in the fourth quarter. So maybe if the Falcons struggle to score in the fourth quarter, that'll assist the Raiders. Or maybe on the flip side, maybe the Falcons will get cooking in the fourth quarter because the Raiders start to let the floodgates open. So, one of these two things could be true. We don't know what it is, but one of these two things could be true for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of putting it, Q. As I was looking up a lot of the stats for this matchup, it feels a lot like a very movable force against a very stoppable object, and one team will go either way with these two teams. So we'll see what's what on Monday Night Football. We'll see if Desmond Ridder gets his revenge. We'll see if Kirk Cousins can get off of this slump